want to show you some of the things that I do with this notebook page and talking about adding and subtracting decimals with my students. So one thing, if you watched the other video about understanding decimals and being able to draw decimals and using the base 10 blocks, so if we were adding these two numbers, 1 and 5/10 plus 1 and 57/100, I have them draw it using the base 10 blocks. So this is a 1 whole, this is a 10th, and then these are my hundredths. Actually do little squares. So if I was going to draw 1 and 5/10, I would draw 1 whole, and then 5/10. And if I was going to add 1 and 57/100 to it, then I would do another whole, 5 more tenths, and then 7/100. And I do this, I have them either physically do it with the base 10 blocks or I have them draw it, because I want them to understand why we line the numbers up by the decimal. Because then we talk about how it doesn't make sense to take this group and add it to my wholes. Like, that doesn't make any sense. We need to add the wholes together. I'm going to do this in a different color. But we need to add our whole numbers, then we add our tenths together, and then we add our hundredths together. And that's what I use to help them understand why we line the numbers up by the decimal. So that's one trick that has helped me. So on the notebook page, we just line the numbers up by the decimal, fill in any gaps with zeros, drop the decimal down into the answer, and then just add like normal. And so on the next page with the practice, I have it shown like 1 and 4/10. Here's my 1 whole, my 4/10, plus 13/100, my 1/10 plus 3/100. And then with my students, I actually have them go place value by place value. So you have 1 whole, 5/10, and 3/100. But with it, I also have them just line it up by the decimal. And one of the first things that I show them when I'm introducing the idea of adding and subtracting decimals is, like, if I had 3,476 and I was going to add 22 to it, would I go like that? And my kids always tell me, no, you can't do that because you have to line the numbers up. And so we talk about how they've always lined numbers up by place value. This is the ones place, and this is the ones place, and that's the tens place, and that's the tens place. And it's the same thing with the decimal. We just have to line up our 1 whole, then our tenths, and finally our hundredths. And that really seems to help them. So same idea with subtracting decimals, still line it up by the decimal. Fill in any missing values with zeros. Drop the decimal down into the answer. And I still have them draw this with base 10 blocks. So this would be 7 wholes and 2/10. And we're taking away 4 and 126 thousandths. So I can just take away my 4 wholes. Oops, I didn't draw 7 wholes. There we go. I can take away 4 wholes. And then I can take away my 1/10. Now I've got to take away 2/100 and then 6 thousandths, and they can see why they're breaking down, which usually, like on these problems, it's better because it doesn't go down to the thousandths. I mean, you can go into the thousandths with like the drawings, but it gets a lot harder. So with this one, I have the 1 and the 95/100 already there, and then they just have to take away 2 of the hundredths, and then 8 of the tenths. And so then they can see that they're left with 1 whole, 1/10, oops, and 3/100. So 1 and 13/100. And I also show them how we line it up by the decimal. And again, we talk about how, just like adding, when we subtract, we have to keep it lined up. the ones place with the ones place, the tenths with the tenths, and the hundredths with the hundredths.